next few days that we might have something progress-wise to report by the end of the event. Does that sound good? Okay. Does anyone know someone at SPI? I've met some people through Debian that are SPI folks, but here. How's it going up there? Okay. Great. So what else do you want to talk about? Okay. Sorry? Good question. SPI is software in the public interest. It's a nonprofit charitable organization that is the parent organization of the Debian project and several other long-standing free software projects. It's based in the US, but they do handle international events all the time, including DebConfs, which happen several times a year. It's slightly unfortunate, but yeah. But yes, the capitalists do like their tax deductibles, so you know. All right. Okay. 2019. Who are we waiting for on Sunday? Wow, we don't really have that many organizational issues. That's pretty nice. Yeah. We could probably head to the center of town sooner. Okay, so it's self-referential link. Okay. Are there two pads? It could be, yeah. This free software stuff never works. Yeah. So I'm curious about the list thing. Does anybody have conflicting opinions on that? I mean, I don't strongly disagree or anything. Jihan maybe does. So, would you like to make a case for that, or did you just want comfortable holding your hand up and?
Well, I'm just not so sure if you don't get answers on a single list, how will having two lists and splitting people, how will that help? So that's why I prefer one list. So.
Basically, there are many people who register to LGM list but never post anything. Those are people who are interested in the LGM and want to keep up with what happens in the LGM, want to know when it will happen and things like this, but they are interested on the broad level. And what happens now is that there are mails which don't go to the list, and there is a parallel discussion which is done in per private emails. Because on one side you don't want to talk to people you don't know who they are, because anybody can be there. And the other side, you don't want to bother too many people with details which are irrelevant to them. They don't care about it. So I think it would be nice to separate them and have one channel which is a broad diffusion more, and for general questions. I want to come to the LGM. Can somebody help me and things like this? That the people coming can discuss between them and something like this. And then we have people who are really there for organizing an LGM or many LGMs. And I think they want to rely on the fact that somebody will answer. And that people who are there, they know I can tell them this, they will understand it correctly, I don't have to explain, it's not too much details, and I want to avoid too many private emails, because I was involved in a few private discussions now, and I'd like to have them in the mailing list. So it's about opening more, basically, being able to, like now we are discussing, can we say this on the microphone or not? For me, it's not a question, we should say it in the microphone. And not talk about it, not talk about it outside or things like this. So it's about being able to always say the microphone.
Just to clarify the microphone thing, the only thing I was saying we keep off it was the name of the person Frank had contacted, in case that sounded wrong for the recontacting. I'm sorry, were you going to reply? Yeah. Can you? I didn't notice. It's on the same topic.
Yeah, I just want to, hi everybody, I'm Lara. I just wanted to, am I too loud? I just wanted to kind of support Ali's proposition from experience of local organization while there was a separate mailing list with dedicated organizers. And I think that first of all, you have a group to discuss ideas with. It's all documented. You can go back and revise if necessary. And like Carla says, the communication is out in the open. It's not, you know, only 2 or 3 people involved in small private communication. Perhaps it would be useful to agree that something that I was encouraged to do regularly, that local organizers reporting to or alerting the wider community of various stages of organization, and in that way encourage participation, whilst at the same time having a solid, committed body of organizers that you know that you can rely on whenever you need as a local organizer, everything from the infrastructure team to marketing and publicity team to fundraising to all the people who kind of historically are showing full commitment to organization. So that's, I just wanted to kind of add a little bit on that.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand really the answer, because basically to be more open, you have to make a closed mailing list with only a few people. Hmm? Okay. Because, okay.
That makes no sense whatsoever. Why? I mean, we have tens of thousands of subscribers who took the mailing list and 20 contributors. The tens of thousands who listen don't hurt. I mean, what's the problem? I don't see the problem, honestly. I mean, you can have a mailing list as many subscribed as they want, and yeah, but that happens all the time. Okay.
That's the problem. I have to send private emails to get replies. I will send private emails to get replies. When I send it to Edgemont, and Edgemont say I get no reply. That was happened last week. I have to send contact 10 people personally, instead of being able to contact a list and get no reply, because I know that those people are engaged.
I'd just like to note that I believe that the problem you're trying to address with two mailing lists is different, because basically what you actually need is the dedicated people you can rely on. And this is not the question on how to reach, or this is not solved by having two mailing lists. Although two mailing lists might make sense because of separation of topics, for like one more announce style list, one more organizational, internal, quick stuff. But the actual problem, in my opinion, is that we are not sure that we have the people we can rely on.
Very much on that topic, I think we have a bit of a burnout problem, unfortunately. Sorry. Sorry. On that topic, we have a bit of a burnout problem, unfortunately, in that we do have people who are very committed, who are very keen to make sure that LGM happens successfully, who are very invested in it going well. But a lot of us are very tired. I took a year out after LGM 2015 because it was a very difficult experience, because this is free software land, which means that we're not always spectacularly nice to each other, even though we're all very well-meaning. And I think that an important thing is going back to having some things institutionalized. So for example, between 2014, 2015, 2016, we very successfully had a program committee that was actually responsible for puzzling out the program. And that was an enormous help to me as a local org in 2015. I won't put words in Lara's mouth, but she's nodding similarly about 2016. And to know that you can actually fall back on those people, I think we need to actually be paying attention to the fact that those people are there. We need to appreciate their existence. You know, we should clap for Julien, who has been very quietly running the Twitter account all of this time without anyone really knowing. We need to work harder at appreciating the work that people do and making sure that we're hanging on to them. Because as I've seen this year, the program committee has very quietly just dissolved, right? It's fallen into disrepair, and thus the local orgs had to do far more work than they should have had to do.
How do I respond to that? I'm not trying to respond to that. But Simon is right and Ginger is right, and I don't see why we even need to discuss having an administrative list. Just go make one. I don't see that as an issue at all. You always need an administrative list because there's going to be things like financial discussions that you can't make public, and if you don't have a list for them, then they're in private email and people get left off, and it's a problem. So go make an administrative list, and let's stop talking about it. But let's, yes, talk about the problem that no one replied to your mail. That's a real problem. Let's, yes, talk about how to make sure that we have a program committee that's engaged, how to get some more projects here. Because if the program committee isn't engaged and we don't have projects here, then should we have a conference, is the question we should be asking. If we know what we want to get out of the conference and there's something positive, then we've got to make it happen. And it ain't about a mailing list.
Right. Both good points, I think.
I don't want to monopolize the topic, but the organization list exists. It doesn't have to be created. If you want to use it or not, that's the question. And the second is not, my proposal was not about a private list, but a separated list. So both will be public. So you're talking about a private list. It's a different topic. It's not the same topic.
Yeah, that can get tricky because people like sponsors don't like having their discussions publicly on the record. But I think your main point about two lists was to separate by topic. Is that an accurate description of the two list thing? Okay.
Just some thoughts based on the previous experience that I've had running a hackerspace. We've had this kind of trouble of a public list for everyone, and then a list for the members, and then a list for the things we cannot talk in public. And we also share this idea that we should be talking publicly as much as possible, but then each person has a different take on this, and it really requires lots of self-policing. Where do you post? And so I agree that at a minimum there should be one private list for the really sensible topics, like involving money, involving sponsorship. These might be sensible thing that you would not want to talk in public, but then it requires lots of self-policy not to use that private mailing list for everything else. So it's a hard problem. I'm not saying that I have a solution, but I'm just saying that this is the kind of problem that happens in other places as well, such as while running a hackerspace.
Yeah, we definitely had that issue with a community Linux event that I helped organize in Austin as well. And it goes up and down every year, how many people abuse the private list for things that really don't need to be private. And it just sort of takes everyone agreeing to make that work. Did someone have a hand up over here? Okay, on this topic, or
could we just agree to sort of go forward for now that if somebody wants to use the org list, he can use it. If somebody wants to put it on the public list, he can do that. And if somebody thinks one of the things has been misclassified, he can argue that point. Does that sound reasonable?
Sort of a last point on this, because I think we could probably talk about mailing list structure forever, but by the end of the conference, I would be really curious to hear thoughts from this year's local organizing team about how they think the logistics of organizing could be improved. So maybe over the next few days, unless if you wanted to say something about that tonight, that would be totally welcome as well. But I would always like to get feedback from someone who's just done the local organizing, I think. So, okay, new topic.
I wanted to add to the list of topics code of conduct, and not the code of conduct itself, but I would like to just put forward the question of procedures if something happens. In my experience, there are none. There were. Okay, so there's...
In 2015, the first year that we actually made use of our code of conduct, we had 2 nominated people who were given local phone numbers. You were one of them, who were responsible for responding to people who felt that there was a code of conduct violation against them, and they were a code of conduct response team. I don't know if that's been done again since, but we did do that once. Both of you are here. Hi. Yes.
But is this available? I mean, yes. It was the same situation. Was in London. We had 2 code of conduct responders. But I'm not entirely sure if we have it written anywhere. Is there any written procedure how the organizers, if necessary, maybe we should put it on the wiki or somewhere, because I think it would be very helpful. to have clarity on how community or global organizers are responding to situations.
Any further comments on this subject? A general one.
One of the problems we have in a very big way is an inability to pass on institutional knowledge. Femke tried really hard in the Brussels and Madrid years and did a wonderful job of documenting everything she did and everything those local org teams did. I think the rest of us have been slightly less good. It's all on the, oh God, .org/. This is the problem. It's quite hard to find because there is an overall site that documents how to organize the Libre Graphics Meeting, which, yeah, in theory, every local org has access to, but whether or not it's actually made use of, because it sort of hides behind the annual site.
So, what can we do in the next few days to improve the accessibility of this information which has already been collected and is going unaccessed? That's the question.
Yeah, basically have it on www.libregraphics.org linked prominently, like maybe in the footer. This is how you run an LGM.
Good idea. Others? Can that happen today? Who has access to this site? Can that happen?
Anybody can do it, just a pull request on GitHub.
Okay, anyone can do it. It's a pull request on GitHub. Someone add the link. Well, someone who knows. Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right.
And also put we are on GitHub with a link on there.
Whoever's typing this, I hope you're listening. The close quote should go after LGM, not after website. Just minor point. Okay, what time is it? How much more time do we have? Again, we don't have to use all our time for this. I want to be clear, because no one loves minutiae of organizing things more than open source people, but.
Sorry to get back to a previous topic. About the mailing list, there is a suggestion from Pat David on IRC about setting up a discourse for organization and announces. So I'm just transmitting the idea and yep.
So who made that suggestion? Pat. Well, Pat certainly knows how to organize a community online, so I would not dismiss what he says at all. Even though normally I would say, oh, adding a whole new communications tool is just asking for complexity, but yeah. Make sure that goes up on the Etherpad, someone who's typing. Ooh, okay. I want to make sure we get anything that we can make progress on in the next 3 days on the Etherpad. Is there anything that we've left off that list that needs to go up there so that we can harp on it endlessly for 3 days and then have results? Yes.
Maybe it can make sense to go over the documentation that seems to be there about the existing LGM and try to identify tasks which can be delegate it to a non-local organizing team, like for example the program team. Try to find as many of these kind of tasks as possible, and to support the local organizer and relieve them of work they are not necessary to be local for. Yeah, for example, I think we should restart. And then the next thing, of course, is to find persons who are willing to coordinate the thoughts of these teams and serve as contact persons. For example, find somebody. Right, right. That might be a proposal, and so then we can have a discussion. Or not just a discussion, but we will have a list of names who we know who is responsible for the contact to the program team, for example, and stuff like this.
If there are no objections, I'm going to ask the Milan team if it's possibly in for 2020, and then we'll have something to discuss on that at the end of the event. Does that sound good to everybody? I was going to send an email to some of the Milan folks and see if they would be interested. Oh, I think you said.
Yeah, you just need to move closer to me. That's just...
So the well-hidden site of the LGM is LGM. So you go libregraphicsmeeting.org/LGM, and then you can see if you want an account to edit, just ask, and you will get an edit account. Everybody gets it, editor, and people who are engaged, administrator. And the other, Milan, I think it will be hard with 2020. I think they have funds for next year, but not for 2020. Funds, money. That's what I've heard. That's it.
I also want to add, it's probably just a good idea that people take a look at the how to organize an LGM documentation and note anything that seems to be missing too, so we can talk about that and add it before we all leave and go our separate ways. No designated rules on who reads there, but everyone who is interested. Did you have a hand up? Okay. Does anyone else feel like raising their hands? Okay. Does that mean we're done? Okay, I think we're done. I'm sorry, I think we're done. All right, since you volunteered your laptop, you can.
It's actually not my laptop, but we have a bunch of notes. They're on that link, which you can maybe find. There are some, I just wrote action proposal. Maybe so I have, I'm gonna stay here. Things that I'd like seem to be things that we should do if anyone wants to do it, and I noted down a couple, and I want to make sure that we didn't miss any. So there was a proposal to, not really a code of conduct, but put the how to organize an LGM onto the website. There was a proposal to put up to this website on GitHub with just a link so people can know that you can fix and improve the website, the public website. And there was a proposal under the volunteers that we would define a list of roles, so that would be like whatever we have, like if it's a program committee or sponsorship, and then we would ask for volunteers, and this I forgot to add at the ending meeting. So we can maybe think about the roles right now, and then we can hopefully ask, does anyone want to volunteer for this, volunteer for that, these were the proposals that I could note. Did anyone have concrete things to add to that list? In which case I will write it down right now.
There are roles, I mean, there are groups or committees, I think. This is how we cook infrastructure, program or content, marketing and publicity, fundraising. I think this is more or less what I can on top of my head, but I have archived pirate pads or etherpads from previous years where we actually have been through these different roles where people were signing up to, so I can just dig it out and paste it on the here. Yeah.
In past, we've had people volunteer for those committees or groups at LGM for a given next year. So in previous organizational meetings, there's been, you know, if you're here and you want to be on the program team, then speak now. So we should probably continue doing that. Yeah.
Okay. To clarify my request, I had asked for more concrete proposals that I should write down in the notes, like something we should do the next 3 days before the concluding meeting. Did anyone have something they think we should, that is, I can write down in one line, then I will write down. Or if not, then we are done. Very good.
Yay. Okay, thank you all for staying. If you love organizational meetings, you're in luck because we have another one in like 3 days. So see you then. No, I do not know. Local organizers, lead the way.
The Beer and Caracoles is in Plaza del Pumarejo Square. And it's a bit far to go walking, so you have a C1 bus. Yeah, here in the gate of the faculty, you have a bus that takes you to the center of the city. And yeah, you can, yeah, it's Plaza del Pumarejo. It's like, I don't know, the bus stop. Yeah, you will find it. Yeah, it's a... Dime?